Hi guys, good morning and welcome back to my channel, the Sophiologypodcast. My name is sophiacianciulli and I am the host of Sophiologypodcast. I've been doing it for like a year. It's on Spotify and I do have a couple episodes on my channel, but they're mainly voice only, so I usually keep them on my Spotify. But lately I've been feeling so compelled to kind of share a little bit more. Especially on YouTube, because I kind of have this habit of containing myself, and I don't know if anybody else has, these issues, but a lot of times I just kind of put a wall up when it comes to being seen or perceived because I'm changing all the time. So sometimes I'll say things and then I'm like, oh, but I feel differently. Or I'll have a day where, like, even the other day I posted that video about how to get everything that you want. And then I had moments literally the next day where I kind of felt so detached from my capabilities of creating the life that I wanted, and I had lapses, and that so happens all the time. And I think something I'm trying to push myself out of, is judging myself for feeling differently and changing and having emotions. And I just want to talk about the power of our thoughts and the power of mental suggestion, because I had an amazing day, despite the fact that I went to sleep last night really late and I had to wake up really early for work. And now I'm here and I'm back in New York, which is great because I love being back in New York. It makes me so happy. It's where I'm from. And every time I'm back here, I'm like, oh, yeah, I just come alive. I feel like myself. But I really like my slow life in South Carolina. So anyway, I went to sleep late and I was ruminating a little bit on things from the past. And I kind of had like 2 days of this where I was like, why am I feeling like this? I was feeling so good. And then suddenly it's like these old thoughts are coming back. And why? Why am I thinking about these things when I thought I overcame it? And I talked about this too in my last episode. And it's so funny how we judge ourselves and how we judge our thoughts without recognizing, like, our thoughts are no more than just old things that bubble up, and it just takes time and it takes persistence to solidify a new way of thinking and a new way of being. And I've been putting in work on myself for years and years and years, and it's a constant battle. And especially when I am, we're all at these places, I think, where, especially if you're in like your mid-20s, so much is changing in your life, or you start to experience more, explore more, when you leave relationships, when you get into new relationships, when you move, when you start a new job, when you start to discover new sides of yourself. It takes time to really solidify the new thought patterns that come with visualizing a new version of yourself, which I always say, I'm like, it's really important to have a vision of who you want to be. That's great, but it does take a lot of work, and it takes stumbling and it takes perseverance. So anyway, the last couple of days I had these thoughts coming up, and as I was going to sleep last night, which I always say to myself, I'm like, it is not the time to think those thoughts. But sometimes you just genuinely can't help yourself, and sometimes you kind of reach this wall where I'm like trying to put more on top of what I'm already feeling, and trying to reframe it, and trying to affirm past it, and trying to think my way out of a thought. And this might sound so basic, but it's not for me, especially for my overthinkers, or perfectionists. And I think just in, I don't care what your spirituality is. I don't care, I believe in God, and I also believe in the power of our thoughts and in the power of utilizing our thoughts to create good things in our life. And I think that that's amazing. And the power of the tongue, right? The things that you speak come into fruition. So speak life over yourself. I believe those things. But no matter what you believe, I think a lot of us can get really roped into like this, I need to be positive for things to work. I need to be positive for things to be good. So I just want to tell you a little story about my morning so far, because it's been so miraculous, despite the fact that in my head, I was kind of feeling like, how do I describe it? Like, I so badly wanted to go back into old patterns. And I think this has been something I've been working through the last couple of months. I'll be really transparent, like with alcohol, that is a relationship that I thought that I could find balance in. And, part of my growth is recognizing, I've already known this. If you guys don't know, or you haven't already listened to my podcast, I have about like 4 years total of sobriety, and my longest was 3 years, and then, you know, I had about like a year almost, and then, you know, all these little periods of time. So combined, we have like 4 years. And it's hard at this age because your mind, you think, everybody else is doing it, why can't I? And so I kind of started mentally, I was kind of going through those same feelings of like, why is it so hard for me to put up this boundary? Why is it so hard for me to really, you know, say, I'm not doing this anymore. It's not good for me. It leads me down a bad path. And the same thing, I had that same mindset when it came to relationships. I would miss people so much who weren't good for me, who didn't make me feel good, who weren't aligned with what I wanted for my future. Yet it was so hard for me to let go of thinking about, but the times were so good. And, you know, I've done some really great inner work on boundaries, and I think this is a side topic within what I'm trying to get at, and what I'm trying to share. But just my little side topic is like, you know, boundaries really do take work to instill. And sometimes you are going to catch yourself in these thought patterns where you start thinking down a path that can kind of feel like, sorry, my feet, I'm sitting on my feet and it's not comfortable. But I just wanted to say this, and the lighting's good. So, but sometimes you start, you know, down a negative thought pattern, or sometimes you make a mistake and then you think, I have to spiral because I've made this mistake. Like, you know, I did this one thing, or I thunk this one thought. So now I have to act on it. And something I'm recognizing, and this is my full circle moment with way too many details, but my point was that last night, you know, I started thinking, in the last couple of days, I just kind of started thinking like, I miss this, and I miss this person, and I miss this situation. Even though the me with boundaries, even though the me that I've done so much work on feeding, and I don't think we talk about this enough because we act like it's really easy to make these big life changes, and even I do sometimes, but it's good to be transparent and share, like, it's super easy to miss things when you're in the process of changing because it's comfortable, and because that is where you gained all of your comfort. And then sometimes you find yourself in a space, like I said the other day, like our void space, where there's nothing there except for you and possibility. And sometimes possibility it feels scary, even though it's the safest place to be. That is the safest place for us to be, is in the realm of possibility. But sometimes we start thinking, no, it's safe back here. It's safe with these things. It's safe with these people. It's safe with these situations. It's safe with the chaos. Like, you just want to go back to those feelings that you know. And so all of those good feelings that take time to come into fruition, they feel unsafe and they feel far from possible. And so I just want to share that, like, I was having those thoughts and I started thinking to myself, I was like, I wanted to think my way out of it. And I gave myself a literal headache trying to think my way out of it, and thinking to myself, like, I shouldn't be thinking this. I shouldn't be feeling this. I shouldn't miss this person. Why can't I figure this out? Like, it was just driving myself nuts. And, you know, a lot of us, we have great faith in God, and it's really easy to be like, God's got it. But still, as a human being, right, you're going to have those feelings. I really recognize, because the way my morning went and the way I coached myself through this moment, because I've done enough therapizing, I've done enough journaling to know that when these things happen, I don't need to act on them. When I have feelings and thoughts that I'm not aligned with, or that aren't aligned with the future that I want for myself, they might feel familiar, right? Like, they might feel like what I want. My heart might think I want this thing. My body might think I want this thing. But my spirit knows, and my higher self knows, and, you know, just my wiser self, my older, wiser self knows, no, you want different. What you want in the future, the goals that you've set, the vision that you have is this way. That is this way. So it takes a little bit of work, and it takes a little bit of observation of self to recognize you don't need to act on those feelings. So I coached myself, sorry, my feet are really fun every time. It takes a little bit of self-observation though to understand that. And so basically the last couple of days, how I kind of worked my way through this to the morning that I had, which was so beautiful and so aligned. And it just reminded me, I haven't had a morning like this in a while. So it reminded me, one, God is good and you don't have to do anything to receive his grace. But two, there's so much power in scripting and in thinking good thoughts and taking care of yourself and planting good seeds. They will blossom even if you're not seeing it in the moment. So, you know, the last couple of days I'm struggling with these thoughts, And I just reached a moment where I was, a couple times, I had to stop myself so many times, even though they still were there. And I was like, you don't have to change this. You don't have to affirm your way through it. You don't have to like even journal about it. You don't even have to sit here and talk to yourself about it. That's my method a lot of the times. I just talk myself through it, but I felt like I couldn't get to a solution. I was praying and I was like, I don't want to come to God and beg, but I'm talking to God and it feels like I'm not. It was just kind of one of those states where I felt like no matter what I did, I couldn't get out of the thought. And then I reminded myself, all I have to do is be an observer. And so I was having these moments where it was just like, all you have to do is be an observer. You don't, and this has been a lesson that I've implemented in my life a lot, especially in the last few months, of just like, I am just here to observe my life. Like, I am not connected the way that we think that we are so intertwined with situations. It's really not true, because our spirits, they're always safe. We don't recognize how safe that we really are. And so a lot of the things that cause us panic or stress or sadness or suffering, we don't realize that really isn't hurting us. It's just our attachment to it that's hurting us. So the safest way to get out of, and the best way and the wisest way and the most trust, faith-driven way to get out of a negative thought is to just observe it and leave it alone. And so the last couple of days, that's what I had to do. I was trying my other methods and I just found like, I just have to observe it and leave it alone. Instead of fighting it, instead of trying to change it, instead of trying to think a better thought, which works sometimes. I'm not saying it doesn't work, but I'm more talking about those persistent ones. Instead of trying to force myself out of a situation, I was like, just let it be. And this is something that takes work for me because I am a bit of, a control monster, and I like to be able to say I'm doing the best I can and I'm trying as hard as I can. I like that, even I've said it at the beginning of this video. I said I'm trying to post more videos and I'm trying to do X, Y, and Z. And that really isn't in full conjunction with what I'm telling you, which is be in flow. There's a time for flow, there's a time for action, there's a time for effort. We know this, but I would say that when you have those really persistent negative thoughts, observing it and just trusting that God will remove it or God will give you something better to focus on. Like, we don't have to suffer. It's just feel it, observe it. And now I might feel this way. I might feel a little desperate. I might feel a little scared. I might feel a little lonely. I might feel a little needy, a little confused. I don't have to act on any of it. The best thing for me to do right now is to do literally nothing, watch it, and then let it pass like a bubble. And it does eventually. And so my point is that I went to sleep kind of thinking about stuff, ruminating basically. I went to sleep ruminating, and I don't like doing that because that's my time to fill my mind with good things. But no matter what, it was like I couldn't stop. So I had a moment as I was falling asleep. I was like, you know what? Just let it be. Think about it. Think about it. Don't fight yourself to not think about it. And I woke up this morning and I still was kind of thinking about it, but I was having so I took my Uber to the airport. If you guys don't know, I'm a flight attendant. So I took my Uber to the airport, and my Uber driver, it was like 5 a.m. We had this wonderful conversation. Like, it was everything I was talking about and just how important it is to fill our morning, unprompted too. Like, she was saying all this. I was like, girl, we think so similar. You are like an angel. Because she was just sharing so much of her journey, and she had also used to be a flight attendant. It was just a wonderful aligned thing. And I was like, that's God. And I had woken up this morning. I missed this part. I had woken up this morning, and again, I still did the things and used the tools that I have. I was still listening to my affirmations, listening to my good music subliminals that make me dance and have fun, and made my bed and drank my juice and made a fancy fun coffee. Like, I did those things that bring me joy, right? At 4 a.m. But I did those things. And then, I saw, and I set my intentions, and I prayed, and I said, like, this is what I want, and I'm open to miracles, and I trust that whatever is going to unfold today is going to be amazing and magical. And that doesn't mean that it has to always be perfect. It just means, like, I'm open, and I trust you, God, and I know that even if things don't make sense, it's not my responsibility to run around and figure it out. I let it pass, and when the proper time to act is presented, I act, but it's not stressing myself, right? So I was really open to that. And so we had this beautiful conversation about creation and our words having power, and just, going through hard times and how it strengthens and fortifies you into the person that you are. And, you learn your capability. Just a great conversation. And I love stuff like that. And I hadn't had a moment like that in a while. Like, I hate getting into a car and we're silent. And I'm probably everyone's nightmare. But, I love it. Like, I love conversations with strangers. Like, my friends have said to me, they're like, how do you not get drained? And I'm like, I enjoy it. Like, I love it. I always learn something. I always talk to somebody I wouldn't have otherwise spoken to. So I enjoy it. So we had a beautiful conversation, and then I go to the airport, and the TSA man is so sweet to me, and we're just having a good conversation, how we're both from the north, because I told y'all I moved to the south. And then I get to come here to New York, and like, my driver's so nice, and everything kind of, all these beautiful little things kind of played out in such a nice way. Like, my hotel room, and just, this is a small example. So like, I was like, I wanted to go to my gym, and when I'm on a layover, it's like a lot of times I have to use a hotel gym, and it's not that good. So I was like, where I am in New York, I'm like, I'm sure I can find I like Planet. I like to tan, but I was like, maybe I can find a Planet. And so I was like, I bet you there's one near the hotel. Guess what? There's one in my hotel. So I was like, that doesn't ever happen. That's so cool. And it was such a little thing, but it got me so excited, because I was like, wow, wow, what a coincidence. Like, that's beautiful. And so just those small little moments really get me so excited. And I'm like, I get to see people I love today, hopefully, if everything goes as planned. But, I really understand that, like, when those moments happen, a lot of times we struggle. And we talked about it this morning too. Like, sometimes you have moments and you're like, how am I going to get through this? Or am I going backwards? Or I don't want to think this thought. I don't like it. But I think just letting it be, you start to recognize, like, God, first of all, gives us so much grace and wants us to experience good things. And I really would recommend starting A Course in Miracles. It's a big freaking book, and I'm pretty sure there's multiple volumes, but there's so much profound stuff in there. And just about, like, the power of knowing that we're here to experience love, we're here to experience good things, we're here to experience miracles and coincidences, because they're expressions of God's love. So I don't know, I just wanted to share this little encouragement. And not that I'm trying, but I am expressing myself more, and I'm more comfortable expressing myself in ways that I wasn't before. And I am following the trajectory, and I'm following the flow. And I hope that this was of somewhat of a benefit to you, and I hope this encouraged you. And again, my podcast, I'll link in the description. And yeah, so love you guys. Bye. I'll talk to you the next time I have something to say. Ta-ta.